I feel like Donald Trump's cabinet secretaries were appointed to do two jobs, and neither of them, of course, are their actual jobs. The first is to kiss Donald Trump's ass, to lie on his behalf, to go on Fox and to spread his propaganda. And the second is to screw up and create unwanted scandals in his administration, because it seems like that is all Donald Trump's cabinet secretaries do. And the latest example of this can be seen from Kash Patel, who has created a real problem for Donald Trump around the Epstein files that Trump was just grilled over on Fox by Bret Baier. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we see this big issue for Trump get called out on Fox, I want to hear from a different, actually good Fox host, and Jessica Tarloff, who called out an important point that's great context for this story.
There is an important distinction to be drawn between being accessible and being good, or delivering truth, or actually saying what's going on in the world. And now I'm all fuddled up in my head. But
he told Bibi Netanyahu to cut it out.
We don't call him Bibi.
I always get that name wrong.
Well, don't. He's important. Donald Trump does this thing. Not only, like today, he says, we got 5.1 trillion in the Middle East. It was 1.5 trillion like a week ago. But most importantly, he sits down for these interviews, and I think Biden should have been more accessible. Maybe we would have had a competitive primary if he had been more accessible. But he does these interviews, and then he says, I don't know, or I'm not sure. Like, Kristen Welker asked him, do you need to uphold the Constitution? I don't know. Ask a lawyer. Are you sending migrants to Libya? I don't know. Ask Homeland Security. You just announced a new nominee for Surgeon General who didn't graduate from med school. Why? Bobby likes her. I don't know her. You have the power to bring back Abrego Garcia. I don't make that decision. Lawyers do.
You were arguing on behalf of him right now.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that is what the criticism is of him. He may be in front of you, but that doesn't mean that he's not spewing utter BS.
But you know what?
This is something that I return to a lot, especially when we're talking about Carolyn Leavitt and how bad at her job she is that this idea that Trump and Leavitt and all the MAGA people put forward is that if you're just speaking, if you're just blabbering, you're being transparent. But that's not true. Jessica made the important point. When you don't say something that's true as a response to a question, it's not an answer, it's a lie, and that doesn't do anything. And that's all Donald Trump's administration is being. Sure, they're more public with it, but they're not actually doing anything. And it's the reason that they're becoming more unpopular every single day, not just with Democrats, as we'll see with this big issue for Donald Trump around Epstein, but with all voters. And Jessica continued to break that down right here.
And I'm also committed to the truth, Jesse. And the truth is that the Democrats are very unpopular, but so is a lot of what Donald Trump is doing. So in polling, Marquette, Fox News, all the goodies, he's down 16 on the economy, down 14 on foreign policy, 26 on handling tariffs, and 32 on cost of living. And this reconciliation bill that they're trying to pass through the Senate right now has opposition from more senators than they can handle. So you've got the Josh Hawleys of the world, who's miraculously concerned about throwing people off Medicaid. Rick Scott and Maria Bartiromo was raking him over the coals this morning about his views. Rand Paul, who has been talking about everything from how unconstitutional it is for Trump to be putting in these tariffs to how we're ballooning the deficit. Ron Johnson, Susan Collins, Jerry Moran. Those are a lot of senators that you've got to get on board. So if this is the big ticket item, right, this is the big marquee agenda piece that we're going to give tax cuts to the wealthy and we're going to take away food assistance and Medicaid, so we're hurting the poor to help the rich. That does not bode well for 2026. For the Republicans, or for 2028, when we're going to have a big, beautiful primary, and we will get a great candidate, and everyone will forget about the hoity-toity, and we shall be victorious.
Funny, Jessica thinks she...
So things aren't going too well for Donald Trump in this administration. Not a shock. The guy losing his mind in clear cognitive decline, who is raising prices, the same prices he promised to lower, while constantly attacking our allies, Greenland, Canada, the EU. That's the guy that's becoming quickly more unpopular than any president in history, not even modern history, just history. Yeah, that's not really a surprise to me. And then you add a sprinkle of scandal, and it really starts to get worse, especially with his MAGA voters, who have one issue that they really, really care about. And Kash Patel was pressed by Bret Baier on that exact issue that is so bad for Trump, and we can see that right here.
The other thing on the internet is the Epstein files. What's the answer to that? The answer to that is the same as everything else. I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever, but I'm also not going to rush to get it out there in a format in which they can't rely on it. So on the Epstein matter or any other matters, we are diligently working on that, and it takes time to go through years of investigations, years of political maneuvering, and years of cover-up to get the American people what they deserve. And that's what I'm going to give them on everything.
Yeah.
This is why I wanted to play the clip of Jessica Tarlov, because that's a whole bunch of nothing. Kash Patel is saying, well, we have a thing, but it's not a thing. But if I put the thing out now, then it's not enough thing, and it won't thing the thing. What? He didn't give a real answer. And first of all, I don't expect Kash Patel to be able to give a real answer because apparently he's never at his job. We covered this reporting a couple of weeks ago, but it seems like Kash Patel has spent more time in the club. Yes, you heard me right. I think Kash Patel's in his like 40s or 50s. Nothing wrong with enjoying some nightlife, but geez, man, get a grip. What? Maybe that's why his eyes are always so crazy. It's just like the strobe lights have gotten to Kash Patel over time. But yeah, of course he's not going to be able to give a real answer. And MAGA actually does care about this. And it's surprising, considering if you did care about the real truth behind the Epstein files, you might just take a look at the many photos, videos, audio recording, statements from Trump about their relationship. And no, MAGA just don't look at any of that, of course. Of course. They don't actually care about these things. And again, Kash Patel clearly doesn't care about his job. And he was asked about that by Brett Baer right here.
Budget season.
Yeah.
And should you have laid out a budget by then to Congress? Because everybody is looking to how much you're going to spend and how much they're going to take from perhaps you to make this all work.
Do I have a budget at the FBI? Sure, of course I do. But the Office of Management Budget at the White House sets the budget for the United States government. And so if they have a budget which we agree with, they need to roll that out. And they're doing so on their own timeline and working with Congress on that. What I'm telling the American people is that we will be stewards of the taxpayer dollars no matter what budget we are given and focus on these priorities: crushing violent crime, defending the homeland, and fierce organizational accountability. And we'll make it happen. We're not the guys running around on private jets. And somebody maybe in Congress should ask for how many flights on a private jet Director Comey took, or my predecessor Director Wray took, and how many personal trips they took. I know they want to take pot shots at me, but I've been working nonstop on this job, including pretty much every single weekend. And somebody should ask the tens of millions of dollars that were wasted on personal junkets by prior FBI directors before lecturing me on a budget for the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Are we doing Concepts of a Plan 2.0? Is that what's happening? Are we doing Concepts of a Plan again? Why concepts of a budget? There is, in theory, a budget. We're going to budget time to budget the budget. Incompetence. That is this administration. I cannot wait till we have a Democratic president to fire Kash Patel. Because, 10-year term at the FBI. Maybe Trump will. I don't know. But this guy has no idea what he's doing. And that was made very clear when he appeared before Congress. More on this budget when he got called out right here.
Now, let me just start with the budget. As Ranking Member Van Hollen noted earlier, this hearing is being held without the FBI's fiscal year 2025 spend plan and a full budget request for fiscal year 2026. The spend plan is required by law. It was due to Congress over a week ago. We have not yet seen it. That is really absurd. The FBI is our nation's leading law enforcement agency, a budget of $10.7 billion. It is critical that we understand how you are spending taxpayer dollars. So, Director Patel, when should we expect this FY25 spend plan for the FBI? Have you seen it? Have you reviewed it? When will we get it?
I'll get you an answer, ma'am. I don't have a timeline on that.
It was due last week by law.
I understand.
And your answer is you just understand. You're not going to follow the law?
My answer is that I am following the law, and I'm working with my interagency partners to do this and get you the budget that you are required to have.
And you have no timeline?
No.
Well, we also need a full budget request, not a single paragraph full of wild talking points that we saw with the skinny budget proposal. We're now having a budget hearing without a budget request. So, Director Patel, where is the FY 2026 budget request for the FBI?
It's being worked on, ma'am.
Have you reviewed it? Have you approved it?
Not yet.
When will we get it?
As soon as I can get it from my interagency partners and get it approved.
6 months from now?
I don't know, ma'am. I'm not
Well,
going to
how
make up
do
a timeline.
we as Congress do our budget and our work without that request and without the spend plan?
Well, ma'am, I'm here. I'm
don't
doing the
care.
best I can. I can't make up answers. I'm going to commit to you to work on getting you the information you need.
That is insufficient and deeply disturbing. No response?
I've given my response.
Well, the FBI is already down 1,900 employees since 2023 as a direct result of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. And under the Trump administration, FBI agents, analysts, linguists, cyber experts, and scientists are being asked to do a lot more in order to keep us safe. Director Patel, we all know that budget cuts will reduce the FBI's ability to counter threats of terrorism, and it will hinder its ability to keep pace with firearm background checks and shutter operations that combat violent crime, drugs, gangs, and transnational organized crime. Now, I understand that you told our House colleagues yesterday that you don't want to reduce the FBI workforce, meaning that you disagree with what President Trump is proposing?
No, I agree that we can sustain the mission with the proposed budget, and I agree with the budget. And as I said yesterday, I believe that what I said was I can do more with more. And I gave examples of what more we could do if we were given more.
Well, it's different than what you told the House yesterday. So what are you communicating to the President and the White House about what you need? And again, we don't have a budget request from you, so I'm not sure what you're asking us for.
I'm not asking you for anything at this time.
You can operate without a budget?
I never said that.
Well, this is unprecedented. Okay, well, let me just go to another topic since you're not going to answer that. The FBI partners with state, local, and tribal law enforcement organizations. They provide critical intelligence and operational capabilities to combat violent crime and gangs and terrorist threats, fentanyl trafficking, challenges that our local communities really can't face alone. I'm going to give you an example. A few years ago, the Southeast Washington Safe Streets FBI Task Force worked with our Benton County and Franklin County Sheriff's Office, multiple Tri-Cities police departments, and the State Corrections Department to carry out one of the largest ever drug seizures in the region's history. Now we've got an administration already cutting more than $800 million in assistance in 2025.
Incompetence. Incompetence. That is the through line of this administration. They do not know what they are doing. It is painfully obvious to the rest of us, and we got to continue to call it out. We're certainly doing so on this channel every single day. If you want to support that, as always, hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.